Welcome, time travelers. Today, we're setting off on a journey that spans over 3,000 years of one of the world's most incredible ancient civilizations, Egypt, the land of pyramids, pharaohs, and gods. A place where myth meets reality, and every stone has a story to tell. Ancient Egypt stretched along the Nile, a river that wasn't just a source of water. It was the lifeblood of this remarkable society. From the beginning, Egypt was divided into Upper and Lower Egypt, which sounds strange at first because Upper Egypt is actually in the south and Lower Egypt in the north. Confusing, right? That's because Upper and Lower referred to the flow of the Nile, not geographic direction. Think of the Nile as Egypt's superhighway. It carried goods, connected communities, and nourished the soil, which allowed ancient Egypt to flourish where most civilizations would struggle to survive. Let's start at the beginning, around 4000 BCE. Ancient Egypt was just starting to emerge. Nomadic tribes settled along the Nile, realizing they could farm and feed their communities. And over time, these communities evolved into villages, then towns, and eventually into larger settlements. But Egypt was still divided. Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt were separate kingdoms, each with its own ruler. That is, until around 3100 BCE, when a powerful king named Narmer came along. Narmer was the ultimate power player. He united Upper and Lower Egypt, becoming the first pharaoh of a unified Egypt. And with that, he set the stage for an empire that would last thousands of years. From here, Egypt would only grow stronger. Next, we enter the Old Kingdom, also known as the Age of the Pyramids. The Old Kingdom was Egypt's golden age. Pharaohs were seen not just as kings, but as gods on earth. This is when the Egyptians began building their most famous monuments, the pyramids. The biggest and most impressive of all was the Great Pyramid of Giza, built for Pharaoh Khufu around 2560 BCE. Imagine it, over 2 million blocks of stone, each weighing tons, stacked with incredible precision. And they did all this without cranes or modern technology. Just human strength, ingenuity, and a lot of teamwork. But the Old Kingdom was more than just pyramids. Egyptian society flourished, with hieroglyphics becoming the writing of the elite. Art, architecture, and culture all thrived. For around 500 years, Egypt was the superpower of the ancient world. Now, the Old Kingdom came to an end, and Egypt plunged into chaos. This period was called the First Intermediate Period, basically a long civil war. But after around 200 years, Egypt was reunited by a powerful king named Mentuhotep II. This was the start of the Middle Kingdom, a time of stability, prosperity, and cultural renaissance. Pharaohs were still powerful, but started to be seen as shepherds of their people, responsible for their welfare. The Middle Kingdom also saw Egypt extend its borders and become a true empire. Egyptian influence reached down the Nile and across the Red Sea, and they continued their passion for monumental architecture, with temples and fortresses appearing throughout the land. The New Kingdom, the era of iconic pharaohs like Hatshepsut, Akhenaten, Tutankhamun, and Ramses the Great. This was Egypt's age of empire. Pharaohs were warrior kings, expanding Egypt's borders and bringing wealth back to the Nile. Pharaoh Hatshepsut, one of Egypt's few female rulers, ruled with both wisdom and power. Akhenaten, the rebel pharaoh, turned Egypt on its head by changing the entire religion, focusing worship on just one god Aten, the sun disk. But after his death, Egypt quickly returned to its traditional gods. And then there's Tutankhamun, the boy king. He didn't rule long, but his tomb, discovered nearly intact in 1922, captured the world's imagination. Ramses the Great, Egypt's most famous and long-reigning pharaoh, left his mark everywhere, from colossal statues to grand temples. Ramses ruled for 66 years and ensured his legacy was carved in stone. But as powerful as Egypt was, it couldn't last forever. After the New Kingdom, Egypt entered a long period of decline. Foreign invaders, including the Nubians, Assyrians, and eventually the Persians, ruled Egypt. By 332 BCE, Alexander the Great conquered Egypt, ending its independence. Although Egypt still maintained some of its traditions, it was no longer its own ruler. And then came Cleopatra, Egypt's last pharaoh. Cleopatra is one of the most famous figures in Egyptian history, partly because of her love affairs with Roman leaders Julius Caesar and Mark Antony. She was a clever, charismatic, and powerful ruler, fighting to maintain Egypt's independence as Rome expanded its power. But ultimately, she couldn't stop Egypt from falling to the Romans, and in 30 BCE, Egypt became part of the Roman Empire. So, what is Egypt's legacy? In a word, timeless. The pyramids still stand. Ancient tombs reveal their secrets, and Egyptian art, science, and mythology continue to fascinate us. Egypt gave us some of the earliest mathematics, medicine, and architectural wonders. It was a civilization that thrived for thousands of years, outlasting many others and leaving an impact that resonates today. The history of ancient Egypt is not just about pharaohs and pyramids. It's about resilience, innovation, and mystery. From the unification of Upper and Lower Egypt to the last queen's stand, each chapter tells us something about humanity's desire to create, to rule, and to understand the world around us. Thanks for joining us on this journey through the land of the Pharaohs. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more explorations of ancient civilizations, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and let us know in the comments what era or civilization you'd like us to dive into next. Until next time, keep exploring